BDS versus Vitality. It is basically a rematch from stage 2. Last time around, it ended 6-6. Vitality, they had BDS's number. They had the strats down, but sadly, BDS can have one man walk into a room and they kill everyone that is still breathing. That just seems to be a thing that this team are gifted with. Now, this is a different roster on the side of Vitality as we know it. The question is it enough to bring down what everyone is still calling the best team in Europe?
Well, an interesting point to note, Des, is after that last draw, obviously, we've got to look at the team that Team Vitality are now fielding, and it doesn't include Hungry, who was the best player on the day. Highest rated, 75% on his cost rating, so very involved across the majority of rounds. And anybody who's a little bit newer wondering what I'm going on about with cost, it is basically a rating that gives us an idea how involved a player has been from round to round. So it's an acronym. It stands for kills, objectives, survives, and trade. So you can imagine that each round is a 0 or a 1 situation. You can score a 0 or you can score 1. So if I get a kill, if I play the objective by planting the diffuser, if I survive that round, or if my death is traded, so whoever killed me is killed within the next 5 or 10 seconds, if any of those things happen, I get a 1 for that round. If they don't, I get a 0. And then where we talk about 75%, it basically means that I've got my point in 75% of the rounds I've played in. So it's a very good indicator of how involved I've been from a team perspective. And Hungry was extremely involved last time around for Team Vitality with a reasonably above average 75%. So we'll have to see whether the new players coming into the Vitality lineup are going to be able to fill those sorts of gaps. We're looking at P4, Cactus, we're looking at Shinka, all coming in fresh to the lineup, and they really do need to stake their claim and their involvement.
They absolutely do, and I think for those 3 members that you've just rifled through, the 2 players I'm most excited to see are P4 and Cactus. I've been a long time fan of P4 ever since we see him playing on Easy Dream back in Challenger League. Really thought he was fantastic in one of the games that I cast where he was on Consulate. Absolute shotgun hero playing on the mute, and really keen to see what more he can do here. Alongside it, you got Cactus coming in from Penta. They had one hell of a season, and although all eyes were on Blaz back then, who we saw play earlier on today on Train Hard, not doing so well admittedly, Cactus was a massive step up alongside the rest of the team with players like Revan also coming up and delivering big. There's lots to be excited about, but the same question stands as it does for Train Hard. Great, you've got some capable and good players, but are they capable enough to bring you a result against big EUL teams? That's the big question mark that stands over all these teams that have made changes or are new to the competition.
Heading into round number 1, then we have Team Vitality beginning on defense, and their first defensive site is going to be all the way down in basement. Now, you might be having a look at this and thinking, why have they got so much utility and resources applied to that top floor? Well, they are carrying out what's known as the SSG hold, or at least a variation on it, where we have a couple of roamers all the way up there on the top floor. A lot of utility is invested. You've got your mute jammers, you've got reinforcements up there, and it does take away from what can be used down on the site itself. But what it does, hopefully, for Vitality, is it wastes a lot of time. That's the intention here. If you can pick a kill or 2 up along the way as the defenders, then great, all the better. But what you're really looking for is to waste 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to drop back through like a game of Plinko Des, just drop through those hatches all the way back down. They'll have been opened ready. It'll get them back down to the basement quickly, hopefully with their lives intact, and then BDS have very limited time. Now, a smart play from LM early on, Des, getting himself established in that middle floor and trying to cut off that rotation back to site that I've just spoken about.
That is the great way to really pincer those that are on the top floor as soon as they go dropping through the hatch that they tend to. Well, you're in a spot to catch them out here. Now, no doubt they're being seen out by these drones. They know what's going on, but the pressure's going to be on these members of Vitality that are roaming on the upstairs. You touched on this being the SSG kind of roam. Absolutely. So many teams have now put a variation to it, because before you'd have a castle playing, you'd have the Vigil on side as well. Teams are starting to adapt away from playing that now, and more looking towards things that can deny rushes, because that was the go-to kind of, I guess, not so much the meme, but the kind of answer everyone gave was, oh, just rush dirt, lol, and you'll win the round. It was simple as that. Not quite as simple as that, but that is often what teams took as an approach, especially in some other more aggressive regions. I think in APAC we saw it a few times, a couple of times in LATAM as well. It was the go-to take for a lot of those teams. So I like that with the Aruni, with the Legion, even with the Echo on side here, you do kind of deter some of those more rush-based plays.
Raval just shooting out of the drone there. It's not a mistake. It will have been captured by a Mozzie pest, so it will have been in the hands of the defenders. We can just see a little warning symbol there, and that is a little bit sloppy there from BDS, just giving away that drone. That information so vital, and the team's of course limited to 2 per player, so 10 across the team, and that is a big loss for BDS. They gain so much from each one of those drones. They really do squeeze every drop of information out of them that they can, and they've just handed one straight over to the defenders. It will have been destroyed by now, but it does at least lose them that feedback now. Halem starts to push down blue stairs. He's looking to get control over that boiler area, and this is really essential to an attack down on the basement, is to get multiple avenues of attack. If you try to move in from one location, you stand very little chance, and standing very little chance right now is BDS, as Vitality absolutely demolish them, Des. They take them apart one piece at a time, and they leave them in the dirt.
Excellent execution coming out from Vitality. The amount of time being wasted on that top floor with this setup, and you know, it wasn't like BDS didn't have a plan. You spoke about Alem holding the main drop that comes out of construction and saying, hey, if someone drops through there, they're dead. That's the end of it. And Vitality almost had a sixth sense. They knew it was going to be a thing. They rotate down through garage. They get all 5 members alive still back on site, and you've wasted 2.5 minutes. That is the dream for any roamer, because people always assume that a roamer, your job is to go out there and get early kills. It's not. Your job is to waste time. We spoke about this a lot back on Chalet on map number 1 in the day, and said that ultimately, if you can waste time and leave them with about 30 seconds in the dying moments of a round, they can afford to make 0 mistakes. There is no room for correction. And for BDS, a little bit slow there. Only had 12 seconds on the clock when they pulled the trigger and said, now's the time to go, guys. They got into a spot where there are 2 or 3 dying in front of them. They had no time to pull back, get on the drones, assess where the threat was. They just had to dogpile into sight and hope that numbers would do it for them, but it absolutely did not. A real masterclass from Vitality there on how to play their own game on Clubhouse.
Interesting point to make as well, Des. I mentioned during that round that Rafal had picked up a drone. He killed it himself. As we saw in the bar area, it was picked up by a Mozzie pest. It was in the hands of the defenders, and that's why he took it out. But it was an interesting use of the Z-ping function in order for him to identify and just confirm 100% that it was in fact a Mozzie drone. Now, the lighting is different on the front of the drones depending who is in control of them, but just to be certain, he just gave it a little Z-ping there, and it flashed up red as a piece of enemy utility. So, again, just, you know, a clever little use of that function that is not something that we see necessarily day in, day out.
It's interesting the sort of variation you start to see. And speaking of, actually, I want to talk about the variation of what I thought we might see coming onto this map, because again, we know that Aruni's a thing and she is being employed here. I wondered if we'd start seeing teams changing up the attacking lineup, but it feels like the old complaint about Clubhouse still really stays true, is that the lineup you have to bring is pretty much static. You always need that double hard breach. More often than not, you want to bring the Thatcher along as well. You always need a Zofia to deal with some gadgets, leaving you with one, air quotes, flexible choice. But more often than not, that has got to be someone with nades to help deal with any shields or anything else that gets thrown up. So here it's going to be the sledge, who of course can also do work in destroying floors when attacking the downstairs site. So the attacking lineup is still quite rigid and fixed, but we are seeing a little bit of variety in what defenders are bringing, which is always good news.
Rafal then, he's got control of that garage catwalk and he's just looking to push his way into CCTV. So this is going to be a lot of pressure coming in from the east side, which again is a reasonably standard take for a gym and bedroom site. You move in through cache and CCTV, which you can see at the minute Bibu is holding along with Rise, who's just off to one side in cache. Rise makes a very nice move out, picks himself up a 2k onto Shaiko and Rafal, but is ultimately finished by Renshiro. He will take that trade all day long. Let me tell you, though, he's taken out 2 big attackers there, not only in terms of the players themselves, but also the operators. He's taken a sledge and he's taken nades with him. He's taken an ace. He's taken hard breach utility away. This is not a good round for BDS. They're going to have to largely focus on the kills now. They do have that east side control that I was talking about. We can see now that Bibu has just dropped away with Rise. It wasn't Rise. He lost his life in the scuffle, so it's actually P4 who's got himself in there with Bibu. So there's 2 now trying to lock down logistics. There's a frost map to just be aware of as well for BDS. Not looking great for them so far on this east side push, Des.
I missed entirely where Rise came from, but to see him just walking through CCTV and gunning down 2, that must have been massive. That's unbelievable. Like,
he just stepped
you have
up
a drone on the... You have a drone on the doorway. Like, you must know that he was pushing down that direction, but he just walks into CCTV, mows down 2, and like you say, picks off 2 huge members. But BDS are doing BDS things so far. I say that they were about to swing things back into a 3 versus 2, but it's become a 1 versus 2. It's Renshiro, one of the 3 players that we highlighted at having an incredible year last year. Sadly, can't see the man in plain sight right in front of him. P4 a little bit too quick on the trigger. Vitality take round number 2 despite a mild scare from BDS in the middle of the round.
Always difficult to move in through windows in that sort of a situation. Renshiro not really stacking the odds in his favour there. You get caught in that animation. There's very little that you can do initially to impact on any gunfight, and P4 was more than ready for him. But I like what I was seeing out of the Vitality defence there, Des. It was more aggressive than you would normally expect. As you said, you know, you weren't really sure where Rise had come from, because you wouldn't normally get somebody swinging out of cash into CCTV to take the fight into the face of the attackers like that. Generally speaking, utility has been used to try and hold down cash for as long as possible and prevent that east side push. It's supposed to just be there as almost a comma in the round, if you will, just to break up the round, just to create that pause for the attackers when they're trying to push through and just deny them that time and access in construction. But Rise said, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to play this more aggressive. He took the wide swing out, saw his opportunity and took it, and took 2 BDS attackers with him. And you always had the sense that the round was headed in the wrong direction for them after that. So moving back to site number 3 now, it's going to be, so we've 1 down in Church and Arsenal, 1 in Gym and Bedroom. We're going to be heading this time to Cash and CCTV. And the thing that doesn't bode fantastically well for BDS here, Des, is the fact that Vitality have just held on to this area reasonably well. They've got themselves a couple of kills. They've shown that they understand the top floor very well. So BDS, they're going to have to show us something a little bit different. And right now, I think that's winning some gunfights, to be honest.
I don't know if it was just lazy from BDS, but when they had the second kill come through for Rise, the player was laid down inside a garage catwalk, and I was like, what is going on here? Like, you know that there was 2 holding out towards the east side, and I'm kind of half watching the replay coming back over now, to be fair. They had drones on him, they had everything going their way, but still couldn't do enough to keep him out of the kind of side of the map entirely. So maybe a bit of a lack of pressure coming out of BDS is probably the best way that I'd describe it. Let's see how this round plays out. I think BDS will be much more cautious about their approach this time round, and looking towards getting this wall opened up. The problem is you've got to deal with the bandit tricker himself, Bibu, holding close. They have these EMPs which they can make good use of, and he's been shut down by Shaiko, who finds the second as well. Was that long range all the way
Shaiko
as well? Unbelievable to find 2 kills from the roof up here. So must have found one who tried to jump out or something. What's that all about?
Great play from Shaiko there, just very alert to the danger. There you go, Aruni is going by the wayside, coming out of that gym window. Rise finding absolutely no joy with that run out whatsoever. Shaiko well alert to the danger. The east breach is open then, and things are not looking good for Team Vitality here in round number 3. LM just taking up that very long angle that we often see from the sort of disused warehouse and its associated walkway all the way into sight. That's going to try to hold down really what BDS want to do here. Now that they've got that east wall open, they can keep an angle here that prevents anybody approaching from red stairs. They want to get control of garage, and that will allow them access to the default plant spot, which is near the server stack. If they've got somebody on garage window and they've got somebody on that east rappel, the breach that they've got open, it effectively sections off the site. There's a line of sight all the way through along the cache wall and the single door, so nobody can move through from cache, and there is a line of sight from garage window down red corridor to stop anybody pushing in from there. It creates a safe space that they can get in and get that diffuser down. That is what they need to start working towards. 45 seconds left. They've got all the time they need.
I love the committal they're bringing along as well with the Aruni on both of those construction walls. You had also the electrification earlier on. They brought a lot of tools to make this happen. P4 once again finding this kill inside of construction. It was the one that won the round for them last time, and here he's bringing down the raid boss, and Shaiko brings down Bride. Will finally get traded out by Alem, and Schenker is by himself. Still has 2 smoke canisters left. 20 seconds to play. Must know where one is. Tries to take the shots but can't connect. Shotgun comes out, brings down one. It's a 1 versus 1. Schenker was so close. Will finally get themselves on the boards.
Far closer than it should have been there, Des. We saw a good example of what I was talking about when Alem picked the kill up from the east breach after P4 had managed to find himself too. But they just didn't really establish those crossfires in a strong enough manner. They were trying to push in through construction still. They were trying to get more and more angles that, to be honest, I'm not sure that they really needed there, and they didn't need it to come down to that 1v1 situation for Renshiro. But solid as ever, Mr. Consistent comes in and picks up that final kill. Nice clutch from him to close out the round, leaving us now 2-1 with BDS locking that down. It will allow Vitality back down to Church and Arsenal, though, and there's certainly some food for thought there, Des, for BDS on the attack when they come to that site again. And if you've got control of Garage and you've got control of the East Breach, you could maybe pop a man downstairs in Lounge to make sure you're not going to get hit with a C4 denial from underneath. But beyond that, you should have everything you need to get that diffuser down. You can go in there, you can start baiting out any smokes that are left, any utility that is there, and once that is cleared off, you can get the diffuser down, and 45 seconds is plenty of time to do that. So they just need to be a little bit more clinical in that next time. But the round went on the board. You can't always legislate for somebody like P4 coming in and just going wild.
Lem quite vocal with the body language there as we saw on those player cams as well, barking commands to the rest of the team, some nodding heads, shake coming out of Shaiko, for example, to what he was saying. Whether that was off the back of last round, whether it's more about this round, I'm not sure, but I expect it's something to do with this round. Given how well it went back in round 1 for Vitality, wasting 2.5 minutes on the roam-based play, there needs to be some innovation here coming out of BDS, because after all, if you're Vitality, why fix what ain't broken? You absolutely massacred BDS when it came around to execution time last time round, so let them be the ones that have now got to change things up, and you can sit pretty, pull back to site when you feel ready, and not worry about too much else. I think they have got a little bit of different setup here where they're only just starting to get themselves established on the upstairs. And Shaiko is actually hanging around by the front door, no doubt probably looking to try and hold this drop angle from construction in case someone from Vitality does try and retreat down.
We've got a roaming Mozzie there, P4. He's just looking to make a nuisance of himself now. Shaiko might just find himself coming together with the man on the Mozzie here as he's just getting the drone out there. Is he going to find him? He checks billiards now then. He doesn't check that quite thoroughly enough, I don't think. Des doesn't pick up on P4, doesn't go far enough through to necessarily see the man. It's going to be interesting. He's just shot a drone out there, so possibly has been seen now, but P4 just looking to move himself a little bit further away there. We'll see whether he factors later in the round. I was expecting more of a coming together between him and Shaiko there, but P4 choosing not to be too aggressive yet. We've got to remember there's a lot of time left on the clock here, and a well-timed flank can be a difference maker on this site, especially when BDS start focusing on opening those hatches. But right now, Rise, he's focusing on the forehead of Shaiko and absolutely shuts the man down.
That's exactly the same as round number 2 when Rise managed to find him out early on. 2 rounds out of the 4 that Rise has found Shaiko and shut down the player that everyone looks to do magical things in games like these. Either way, 5 versus 4 is definitely not going to put the round in the bag just yet for Vitality, because there's still 60 seconds to play with. But for BDS now, they've got to start thinking about the downstairs. A bit of a late round reinforcement coming out of the Echo as well. No more left in pocket now, so that has been utilized. I didn't see it, but I wonder if that was a fast rotate back to site for them to use down main stairs to then reinforce behind them.
43 seconds left on the clock. We can see 4 members of Vitality locked downstairs, but there is still the roaming Mozzie of P4. He could have a huge impact. It may well be one of those rounds where he actually finds himself out in the cold, because the push now is coming from Dirt Tunnel and from Blue Corridor. Bibu it is to find Renshiro starting up the action in this final stage as Shinka shuts down LM, and that leaves us now 2 versus 5, and there is a lot of work to be done here from the remaining members of BDS, aware that they're in dirt. One will be down. Bibu it is that hits the deck, but so does Rafal. He's going to find himself just trying to crawl back to safety, but Biride, there is absolutely no way that he can pick the man up here. He has to stay focused in, and ultimately the clock ticks down. There's nothing left for it. There is nothing that he could do, and that's going to be another round going to Vitality. 3-1 here, and I think a little bit of a surprise for 1 or 2 people at home possibly, Des.
I am rating what we're seeing coming out of Vitality so far. BDS just look a little bit frustrated by the constant roadblocks they're coming up against. Whether it's Alem pushing himself down blue, a very crucial part of the map that you need control of, hitting lesion traps, trying to walk around the corner without any information, being shot by Shinka, who was on the doorway. Like, Shinka should have killed him a long time ago. I'll hold that up and say that. That really should have been Alem's fight to win if Shinka was being so slow, but unfortunately didn't win it. And then you were left with two members trying to force their way in through Dirt Tunnel. You're dealing with the C4s, you've got crossfires being set up by Vitality, all this with the intel denial coming out of the Mozzie and the Mute. It's beautiful. Like, they just seem to not really have too much idea of what was going on site itself, because they committed so much already to trying to clear the roamers, and that is all down to Vitality and their prep coming into this. I'm really impressed by what we're seeing so far.
They were looking very, very solid. They're certainly not looking like a team at the moment that are playing with 3 new players. That much is absolutely for sure. Now, we're going to be heading back to gym and bedroom here in round number 5. Team Vitality defended this extremely well last time around. It did come down to a 1 versus 1, but that was largely down to a couple of good gunfights that were won out by BDS. But if we remember, it was all started by that big double kill from Rise. He managed to just step out and catch a couple of players by surprise. It was Shaiko and Rafal that just found themselves a little bit unprepared for the aggression of Rise as he stepped up out of cash. So what can they do differently? Obviously, they need to be very aware of that possibility. For me, they need to be getting themselves established on the East Breach. If they're still going to push in through that side, get the CCTV wall open, but make sure you have your player on there and he's locking down that angle onto cash door. You cannot allow Rise this time to swing out of there like that. Have to lock that down before anybody starts moving in. Maybe push one from lounge up red stairs, because they know that another man was playing on the top of red stairs with a deployable shield as well. So there are a number of things that they can do differently, but one of them particularly is to put some pressure on the west side as well. So they've got that wall open immediately. That gives them some access through the hot tub area, and it just means Team Vitality cannot focus all on one side as they were able to last time.
Aggression coming out of Shinka as that hatch gets popped open, hoping to find someone peeking around the corner. The answer is no, no one is doing just that. And I agree with you about the pressure point coming in from the west, by the way. It's what Phantom or Ghost pressure. I can't quite settle on the phrase yet, but just the fact that there is that opened up and you know that utility has been committed there, and maybe there's a drone or two slipping around as well, it gives the idea that there's probably going to be 1 or 2 operators pushing in. Now, BDS might have completely different plans and be pushing in completely from the east with all 5 members, but you don't know that. You've seen drones, you've seen utility expended. It leads to you having that kind of guessing game coming out from that point onwards.
Lem's managed to get himself all the way upstairs here. He's looking to make a challenge into logistics. He's just going to dip himself back down a bit. That's could be a vital position, so he wants to keep himself alive. Doesn't want to give away anything too cheaply there. He's going to move himself back to bar for the time being, as there was absolutely no joy to be found up there. Now, Rafal's going to find some joy with a kill onto Rise, and Brede is going to join the party, taking Cactus out of things. That's a big double des that's going to take us now to 5 versus 3 here for BDS. Brede is getting the diffuser down, and this is looking more like the French champions that we would expect to see. Brede will be successful. Rafal is downed in the meantime, but the kills keep raining in for BDS. Shaiko getting in on the action now.
No.
However, it's time for Vitality to fight back. 2 kills brings us to a 2 versus 3. Bibu and Shinka are on the clock now. With Rafal down, though, it's effectively a 2 versus 2. Kills need to be found. They've got about 18 seconds left to do something with this, because of course it will take them 7 seconds for a successful diffuser disable. Now Renshiro manages to find one. Can they find the second? It's Shinka. He's fighting. He's got 6 seconds left to survive. He's just keeping himself alive, but no. Shut down. BDS that get the win.
Ooh, I mean, you can see there the pressure that comes in from Vitality, who have so far played an excellent defensive game, playing for these extended holds, roaming around the map a lot. The problem is when you do lose the 1, maybe 2 members that you've got on site, it's a lot for those 3 outfield players to then come back onto the side, go for the retake once BDS are already in and planting. Because when that diffuser was going down inside a gym, where were the rest of Vitality? They were off in towards construction and cash. They were out up and towards logistics, for example. There was just nowhere to be seen near the actual site itself. And this is a problem, and I think well identified by BDS, to be able to exploit that and not worry too much about what was going on out towards CCTV. They've got the crucial kill onto Rise. That area was free. And then to go right now for the site, go into gym. They haven't got the presence there. This is where we can win. So it's one of those things you kind of give and take. You expect to lose around every now and then if you are playing this very aggressive outward style that Vitality have kind of gone for so far. And when I say aggressive, I don't strictly mean going for kills, but on the time burn, absolutely what their intentions have been so far.
Big opportunity for BDS now. Heading back to CCTV. We saw this back in round 3. Shaiko opened us up with a big opening kill onto Bibu. It was actually a double, if you remember, Des, off the rooftop. He managed to cut down the run out from Rise as well, with the Aruni trying to make a way out of Gym window, completely shut down by...
Son of a bitch. Fucking picking my monster.
It was their first successful attacking round. It was reasonably close at the end, and I'd like to see them a little bit more clinical on that final execution and push, which I'm sure they will be. It's, you know, something that we know they're quite capable of. If they can come in here and get this, I feel like it's a real steal for BDS, Des. Coming away from this half 3-3 with the way that Vitality have felt inside the server, they felt really dangerous, and I think BDS will breathe a bit of a sigh of relief, and it might just be the momentum that they need. If they can get this one and move on to defense, I think it maybe gives them an edge.
Absolutely. I think as the half has gone on, they've definitely adapted better. That last round really the kind of epitome for me to show that they've learned how to deal with Vitality's playstyle in this matchup. If they take this next round and go to 3-3 at the half, massive success for them, I think. And given the praises we were singing about Vitality earlier on, it's a testament to BDS that they could kind of adapt and deal with what's being thrown at them, and does make me worry about how the second half may go. But who knows, maybe Vitality have got something crazy planned for us on the attacking side of things. One thing's for sure, you can't come up against BDS without a plan in mind. The plan here was to try and blow Vitality out from, Vitality, Bibu out from below. They did land the impact coming out of the Sophia, but still not enough for them to be able to actually get him away from the wall and stop the impact tracking coming through. Alem contested inside a stock straight away from someone inside a bar, doesn't go down, but now he knows it's no longer safe. So how can they clear the wall?
11 Rise both taking big damage from each other there, and both backing away tentatively, but they are fighting over an extremely important area, so neither one is going to give up the fight. However, Shaiko gets involved. He jumps in and takes Rise out. That is going to open things up for Alem potentially to move in and clear out the bandit. And as we can see, Bibu forced away now with an absolute shower of utility as he loses about 98 HP as well. He is almost done for the round, and that should allow the east wall to be opened up, which it has indeed. Alem has given his life for that cause, but it is not the end of the world, because that was his primary function, was getting that bandit moved and getting the east wall open. So now if BDS can claim control of Garage, they will be in much the same position as I described previously, where they can start holding those crossfires and trying to get that diffuser down and active on the ground once again.
I was going to say they're doing pretty well with the drones as well, with 5 still alive. They have just lost one just a second ago. I've only really noticed the count in the top left corner and what you can use that for. The 1 means that there is still 1 in back pocket. 3 are out on the field here, and of course, without the mute and the Mozzie, it's a little bit easy to get those into more advantageous positions, holding flanks or even looking towards the site. Grenade comes in and Cactus almost gets blown out, does actually get traded by Rafal from below, who had the alternate angle. This is what it's nice to see when you have this trade-based play coming off, or even just looking to confirm kills to one another. That's the kind of team play that you love to see. 4 versus 3, only 12 seconds to go. This is where BDS has struggled historically. They're going to eat a bit of laser damage. They're going to jump in. 1 gets blasted down in the window. Rafal's trying to make it happen. There's no one downstairs. There's no C4, but here comes P4 from the window. He's jumped in, goes for the fight, tries to take it, but can't quite land it.
Actually,
To
nailed.
get the kill onto him after he picked off Breeder a couple of seconds previous. BDS are going to do what we said they might be able to here, Tim. They're going to be able to bring things up to 3.
Shaiko was absolutely crucial to winning that round. It's easy to say he got 3 kills at the end of the round. Of course he was crucial, but why was he crucial? That is the question. And the answer is that BDS got themselves into the position that I described. They had a garage window trying to hold down the red corridor at the top of Cash Stairs. They had one on the east breach trying to hold the crossfire, the angle onto Cash Door. Now, the problem was that a couple of gunfights were lost there. The important one particularly being from the top of Cash Stairs onto Garage Window, and that seriously reduced the ability for the rest of BDS to defend that plant going down. But Shaiko, in a heads-up move at that exact same time, had moved up red stairs, and he caused an absolute nuisance of himself there. He's got in there and got the big kill at the top of the stairs, and then came in and clutched up that 1v1 at the end of things. It was close, but BDS clung on once again. I think they're obviously the kings of winning CCTV catch in the last second.
Well, day 1 of EUL, you want a bit of spice, you want a bit of clutch moments like that. Definitely can't complain too much. I'm very keen to see how this half proceeds now that we've switched over. How BDS are going to, I suppose, respond and adapt, going knowing that it's 3-3. They've probably not got as much pressure on them right now as what Vitality have got. But again, knowing how this played out last time these two teams clashed, there's probably some learnings in there for BDS that I'm sure they're bringing along into this game. They've got the Mozzie, they don't have the mute, so it's not going to be the full roam-based play. I wouldn't even be too surprised to see LM playing a more, I don't want to say passive style, but definitely not the kind of committing Mozzies on the top floor sort of vibe. More looking towards the site itself and denying information away for when we see the attackers try to actually push for the site itself and to collect information to inform a push.
P4 making quick progress on the Ash then. He's going to look to put some pressure onto Blue Corridor. So I sort of half described previously how you need to have multiple angles of pressure onto this site. If you just come down and try to breach the big triple church wall, for example, and push from that one direction, quite often you're going to lose the round because you're just feeding yourself into the guns of the defenders. What you really want is to get some control of one of the other of the three locations in total. So you've got that church wall main stairs down at the bottom of there. That's an important angle to push top left of your screen now. Thank you, medics. Bottom right, you've got the blue corridor, another important location to try and take control of. And then you've got the dirt tunnel up at the top. That is the trifecta of locations that you are interested in attacking this side. There's a couple of hatches that can be used along the way, but if you can control 2 out of those 3, it puts you in a really strong position to be able to win the round, because you can absolutely gun down people all over the site.
It's about setting up these kill zones, right, where you have the crossfires, where if a defender tries to move through to challenge you, there's a pretty good chance you're going to be able to kill them from one of the other angles as they try and go for that. And you're seeing this being set up now around the kitchen. They've got the sledge upstairs, as you're very used to seeing, opening up a lot of the flooring here to give themselves better angles on the downstairs and cut off any of the rotations that might come through this hallway that sits between the two sites. Very standard stuff that we tend to see an awful lot in club. The same sort of vibe that I'm seeing carry through the entire match, though, has been the kills are coming quite late into a round. It's 5v5 up until about 1 minute 10, 1 minute 20 mark that we've seen so far. This round is definitely going a little bit slower. Given it's the first defensive round, I'm not massively surprised. Vitality are just taking it one step at a time, not feeling the need to go hyper-aggressive, but I have zero doubt now that we've got P4 looking into sight, there is going to be a kill or two. Firing through in just a second, pushing on towards Shaiko, I believe that is playing behind Jen, is where he'll often play, but it's Red Shiro with the opening kill onto Cactus.
There are some things that don't change on
Leave them on. Allah, check out this guy.
Bloodbath is one of them. It is so common down here in Church and Arsenal, and I think we might see a bit of it. Although Vitality, they are seriously losing numbers here on this attack. They are down to only 1. It is Shinka 1 versus 4, 1 versus 0 as Renshiro goes massive in the round.
Snake.
I called him before. I said that he was an MVP for this team, and boy, is he. He steps up when they need that momentum shift. He knows how to find the kills, and boy does he find them.
Slithers his way under that wall like a snake there to get that final couple of shots down on towards main stairs. Beautiful stuff, and that'll be them pulling themselves into the lead for the first time in this matchup. That's 3 rounds on the bounce they've now found for themselves, and I wonder, is this where for Vitality they've run out of steam? They had some really good defensive in the first half. The extension game they were playing, wasting a lot of time for BDS. But is this where BDS just proves to be a little bit too proficient with those guns when it comes to an actual push? I guess we'll find out as we now head upstairs into CCTV and Cash.
So what will we see out of the attack of Vitality for CCTV and Cash? It was, they sort of, I think, started off with the right ideas there in Church and Arsenal. We had P4 trying to push blue, but then he seemed to find himself in Mortal. He just completely switched sides of the map, and a lot of the deaths came around that church wall and Mortal. And as I said, if you just keep trying to push that one location, it is always going to be a difficult round for you, because at a point, the defenders just realise that's what's happening, and they all turn 180 and make sure they're facing the same way. And we saw the attack coming from Blue Corridor towards Morto, for example, and there's just no need to focus elsewhere at that point. So I want to see a bit more variety from Team Vitality. I think that's the word here for the attack. I just want to see them do things, you know, mix things up, attack from a few different angles, maybe even send a couple through bedroom and construction. Just put a bit of pressure, a bit of a constriction onto site. Don't allow them any freedom of movement within there.
See how the round starts to shape up. Nice and early doors. Nothing really worth shouting about, I guess, in terms of lineup looking at either side. We are seeing the change, I guess, coming out of BDS where they drop the Mozzie now and instead are bringing along the Mute. Choco's been put down quite early by P4 as well into the dirt early in this round on the Jaeger.
Not ideal in terms of losing the operator in the first 30 seconds. Out of everybody that's gone, the Jaeger is not the worst one. The ADSs will already be placed, they'll already be in position and being useful. So your operators like Breeder particularly much more important as the round continues on, and he will try to be banditry.
Before that, siya ko ya back.
You've also got Rafal on the Wamai as well. Of course, his gadget only replenishes over time, so the longer that he's in the round, the more of those magnetic discs he can throw out and the more useful he is to the team. Now, interestingly, Vitality have come in for an alternative push onto the construction.
Breeder!
He was alive, Des. He knew exactly where that push was coming from, and that says that BDS are getting good information. They are knowing exactly what the attack of Team Vitality is looking to do, and they are because normally speaking, Breeder is looking to trick that east side, but having made a good decision that the push was not going to come from there, or at least the hard breach attempt would not be made there, he's relocated himself and he has dominated him on that one.
Got to be so careful because you've also got the one player downstairs here just waiting for the challenge to come onto that wall again from some more hard breach. And guess what? As soon as you do it, it's getting shot off the wall. Out comes the Thatch. Now you should hear the shots coming from below anytime soon as they start thinking about the push. But instead, actually looks like they're going to focus on getting this east wall opened up. They've bailed on construction for now. They still have players holding nearby, but the big focus has been, how do we get this wall opened up? And now the Thermite has done his job, we might see a rotation coming across to the other side. They've just got to be so wary of the player playing downstairs, looking to contest onto the construction wall when they try and get it opened up.
35 seconds left to go, and a lot of work still to be done for Team Vitality here. That is a clever smoke grenade that could potentially allow another attacker in through that window. There is 3 now established inside of construction, and that east wall breach could be little more than a ruse to just try and place some attention from BDS. However, Breeder to move back in, gets himself 2, but shut down by Cactus. 3 versus 1 now, 13 seconds left to go. Vitality have to do something. Lem, he needs to survive. He's crouch walking around. Can he find 1? Shots will hit. Finds 2.
Oh!
Got 2. He's got the diffuser down. Lem is
No!
No! Bibu in the nick of time. He's out of his seat celebrating. Unbelievable scenes from Team Vitality to close out the round.
Jeez, that's how you end a round. Christ. Well, I don't think BDS expected that push to come in. Like, opened up. For the longest time, like, sure they can't open too much of it, and then realise, okay, it's actually not safe for me to play here. Steps out of his corner, does get 2 kills as well. 1 onto the construction doorway and 1 through the breach. So a bit of misdroning coming out of Vitality potentially when starting to think about pushing into the site itself. But the kills still came through in a bit of a flurry. And as we saw at the very end there, Captain Bibu steps up at the very end, secures the kill for Vitality, puts them up at 4 apiece. I'm feeling another overtime might be on the cards here, Ace.
Oh, Des, my heart goes out to LM. My heart goes out to him. He was in a 1 versus 3. Diffuser being planted. He hits his shot and downs 1. Flicks around, takes the man off the plant attempt. Finds himself 1v1 with seconds left to go. I'd love to see the remaining time. I was far too excited into that round, as you probably heard. And I didn't quite catch whether we were down to seconds, fractions of seconds. I know it was under about 3 seconds. That's how close it was. But it was an absolute fraction for LM to have to survive or to even win the gunfight with Breeder to take the last man down. That is absolutely heartbreaking for him.
Oh, well, it wouldn't be well without a bit of heartbreak. We'll put it that way. Let's see how round number 9 plays out. Again, with us being at 4 apiece, this is 4 rounds remaining here potentially until we find ourselves going through to overtime. We'll see if the needle swings one way or the other. But with how both teams have conducted themselves over the rounds that we've seen so far, it is really hard to call. I'm pleasantly quite surprised. It is this French derby that we're now seeing, as Vitality, as we all know, is now changing to being a full French lineup. They are impressing. I thought we might see them go a similar way to Train Hard, where there was a little more time for them to gel together, to really work things out. maybe for training hard earlier it was down to the map, and this one being a bit more familiar might help. It's a rush coming through. Vitality is straight in. They've lost out 2. They've lost out 3. There's even a knife somewhere plunged into Rise's back from Renshiro. And unfortunately for Vitality, what looked like such a good Jacuzzi rush coming out has been burnt to a crisp by BDS as they brought out the barbecue. It's open season. BDS take round number 9 in no time at all.
I'm not sure if that's one of those rounds, Des, that Vitality are going to be looking back on after this. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a rush. We've seen them work successfully, but at 4-all, this game is on a knife's edge, and one round could be the difference between either getting yourself into overtime and guaranteeing 1 point, or potentially even taking the whole thing. Vitality, it's nice to see the confidence coming out of them to just dash in there and try to take and win those gunfights, but BDS, they were more than ready for it, and they were able to shut it down in quick fashion. And it could be one of those rounds that Vitality look back on and think, maybe that's a decision we shouldn't have taken.
It's one of those where you look at it, I think on paper, they'll be kicking themselves if it does come to the end of the game and they're like, oh, that one rush round, if only we played it more properly and given ourselves a better chance. But these are the kind of gambles that you make sometimes because the other team just aren't expecting it. The stakes are down, it's 4-4.
Hello.
Surely this can't really go too much crazier. A rush is definitely a way to try and make it a little crazier.
Hello.
It happens. We appreciate
قول يا دابا هاي بالبرو ليج.
downstairs goes out. It's going to be Church and Arsenal for the next
هاي
site.
champion.
شنو تشامبيون؟ لا بس مال يوروب. ايه يوروبيان ليج ستيج 1.
ابغى champion word.
وينك تشامبيون اووردز؟
ايه يعني العالمية مو بس اوروبية.
لا بعدها. ما يس.
هي بعد لها وايف من قلت انا صدمت وات.
المهم قول وياي فايتاتي ضد شو اسمه بي دي اس شايكو.
الله
شنو؟ لا عمي ترى لعبة قريبة. هذول فايتاتي وايد صاروا بس خطية شايكو. تخيل مو ريكو الجديد عارف الاش ليش يلعب ايس.
ترى ايس
ايه بس دا يلعبها هولو وجريب. هولو وجريب.
اقول لك هو ترى وايد غير لو اني غلطان.
شنو؟
الايم
منعول دينه خرا. لعلمك تدري وش صار؟ عالطلقة السادسة مالتك مدري ايش قد لو الريكو مال الطلقة يصير 0 لو مالتك السنسيتيفيتي تعلى. فانا على ما اظن هي السنسيتيفيتي تعلى.
Almost like he's got a spot where he's got to put both of his feet and can't move. So you know that you need to deal with him. You know that it's predictable about them. And we spoke earlier on about the predictability it creates a BDS sometimes. There isn't a lot of variety in what they can do sometimes. I'm curious to see how this plays out given they have the Doc and the Maestro on side. I'm thinking that Doc will surely be in a space to be able to support someone. It's not just being picked up for the sake of it.
اتوقع حتى يفوز شايك اول تالي هو شايك.
لا ترى عمي ترى هاي السيزون ودي ينسحب ترى. كساد ينسحل. هذا بي 4 نعلى على.
انت ليش دزت على اليوتيوب؟
ها؟ مو شو اسمه؟ للولد دوما احنا هيجي قيومه. وجي 2 مو بتعرف هسه بلا بينجو. او ايه
مليوف هذول عليه هو
راح رفض ضغط
العظام مالتهم راح.
himself 1 versus 3. We know that this man is capable. 30 seconds left to go. He's going to have to make a move though as Shinka starts to get that diffuser down. It'll only be a matter of seconds until activated, and a smart move from there. Breeder just
يلا بقى هو بس ابو
the main stairs prevents the push coming onto him too quickly. Guesses that there might be somebody sitting in the plant spot, so sees he can flush them out with another toxic babe canister, but that doesn't look to be the case now.
هل الحركة هذا مال ابو السموك؟ شو حركته غبية لو انا
شنو
غلطان؟
حركته غبية؟ يا هي
ها؟
يا هي
لما قاعد يدور يمنيس ورا الديسك وهو السموك ما
هاي ايه هاي غبية. انا متعجب.
غبية ترى.
اي ترى يعني ولو بغدا لعوب حيدري.
م-م. بس هاي حركة يعني صدمتني، انا بواحد كلش غبية.
بس هو يعني ما راح يجيب الران ترى. فتحات شو اسمه
يعني
كلش هاي. بس ليش شنو؟ انا هاي يعني مفكر بيها تفتح بس الجوه.
م-م. بس المشكلة يعني شلون اقول لك، هم دائما يسوي لها رينفورس، يعني مستحيل ما مسوي لها.
تشيرش ايه.
لو ما مسوي لها اقول لك ايه حركته كلش حلوه اصلا. ها بالعكس اطلب منك تفتح تسوي لك احتمال فتحه صغيره، يعني مو بالاشجار يعني شات جان هيك سوالف.
او تدري شنو؟ شايكو بعر. شفت انت شايكو شلون سحل رجع
يب
بالقندره.
يب بالنار.
ونير وانز حبيبي. بغيده راح يلزم اليلو. هو دا اقول له يعني ونير وانز.
اقول لك صدق هاي الحركه مال سموك حلوه، ليش ما نسويها احنا قبل؟
مو تدري ليش هاي نسوي احنا؟ هذا انت تعرف هم البوش ماتهم من موتو. احنا رانك ترى. وترى بس عندنا يعني فازوا تشيرش بس مرة واحدة ما تقدر تجازف بيها. هم عندهم هسه 5-5 10 راوندات لاعبين تيم ضدهم فيعرفون شلون يبشون.
يب
فبالرانك ما تقدر هيك تسوي يعني سوالف.
خاصة انه انت تيمك
كولات بالملي
يب
3 ملي من الرينفورس 5 ملي 6 بيك هيد قوي
360 نوت كوب 360 نوت كوب مان دو ات كيف
دي يسوي ريلود طلع الشاجور طلب الشاجور.
بالضبط هذا
تخيل واحد يجي يعطيك كولات اقسم بالله انا ما اقتل انا القى راسي بالقندره. لك لعبت جيم البارحه ويا ذول الامريكان فاك واحد اسمه كاراميل. ها لا ما تصنفت. فزنا 3 خسرنا 2. طبعا ضد واحد منهم كان تشيتر.
5-4
ها
جيم واحد خسرته 5-4 البارحة. وشنو ضدنا ليفلاتهم كلها 400 هيك يعني والليفلات اللي وياي شلون اقول لك
مصفطه.
بس بلعت واحد السبون مال كوكونات برا.
بوردر.
لا اي بوردر.
بوردر ترى حلوه.
كلش حلوه ترى، خاصة هاي شو اسمها هاي المكان
باثر مال الياس ملاعبي بكل صراحه يعني.
الله شلون
اي عافية ما اترك.
مكان صار لي ديفنس عاد الشقة. انت شايفه دا يلزموا عدد جماعتك ومستحيل يطبون له تنقلب اسمع القاع هيك فهمتني. بس الهاي سوي له رينفورس ويجيب لك واحد يعني ديناي للانسرين بعد ما يطبوا له تود. ها شو اسمها والله وبقينا لعبنا جيم الاخي. هاي الجيم تعرف شنو؟ اثنيناتهم طردنا منهم كراش.
ايه قال لي
يب حتى عبالنا هاي فد هاك جديد.
انا اقول لك بدي العب وياك كاجوال طيزك شايك ايش قد كلب. ايه
هاي الشار
لا لعبنا كاجوال 3 مرات ما ادري مرتين فصل كراش كله.
لا انا قصدي على
شايكو ابدعت امك للبي 4 الخاطر كرامتك اذا موجوده حاليا. بيبو 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 ابو الثرمايت. عف
المشكلة يمي يا اخي ريزولوشن مو كلش ايه صفات ريزولوشن
بارنشيرو.
بس لازم يطلع الكبر. ابلع
دبا عشان كتله بس دبا عشان كتله
يا شفتها
تك تك تك.
لا ايش عليه فولو
ما ادري تتباوع بثي لو تتباوع الستريم نفسه مال
الستريم نفسه.
اوكي اي العد اوكي
عمود يصير شوية دقة عادي. لو تباوع عليك هو تتباوع على الستريم يعني الدقه تصير 104
نيت بنيت. ايه
يلا لا واصلا احتمال 144 ويجي كل ساعه توقف. فهمتني؟
انت على اليوتيوب تباوع البث يغلس. ايه